Hey guys, welcome to OCD Real Talk. It's been a
It's
hot
our
minute.
OCD wave.
Basic. Is this the thing?
We
It's
always
like a
do this.
secret
Got to
handshake
be a
thing.
two-hand wave. We can't do a one-hand wave.
Imagine with every like new OCD Real Talk where like basically we're all doing this. It would be so cringe, I think. Like, and then we start making merch that has the hands like anyways.
Oh, it's over. It's over. I'm getting a shirt like that.
So we thought, as you may have already seen from the thumbnail title as well, that we want to talk about
Forgot
we
the
want to
title
talk
was.
about like triggers that we've experienced since recovering. Because I think like someone asked me in the WhatsApp group the other day, like, "Hey, so have you experienced any like major big triggers since you recovered?" And I was like, "Yes, of course. Like life is full of them." So I thought we would shed light on that just to explain that, I mean, post recovery does not mean that you have to be this like heartless robot that doesn't get affected. Of course, you get affected about like with like serious things in life. So Nick, since you wanted to start, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, about 2 months ago, Rob asked me to try something where I don't think Sam or Elliot has actually heard this. He sent me a voice note. If you guys don't know, Rob loves to go on long walks. So he'll like, you could tell when he's walking, because me and Moment will get like a video. I'm sure Sam and Elliot, and you could hear he's like walking fast. So he
Hmm.
sends me a voice note for like 4.5 minutes on one, and like two-minute ones after. And I'm like, okay, send me like 9 minutes of voice notes. What's this going to be about? So I start listening, and he's like, I have an idea. Anytime Rob says that, I'm like, what is this guy going to ask me? He goes, I want you to try and track your workout programs again, and I want you to start taking creatine again. And I was like, oh, that's like putting an addict like smack in the middle of a room of people drinking. Like, oh, like, and they're like, ooh, smell my beer. And you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't. So I asked him why, and he's like, he made a good point. He goes, I think you can balance it, and if not, it doesn't work, and then we just go back to how it was. And I was like, okay. So I tried it, and I tried tracking it, and I got about 2 weeks in, and this was over the Christmas period, and I could just feel the pull, like my mind being like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should do a little bit different rep ranges on that. No, maybe. And like I felt it, and then Erica saw it. Erica's like, I did see you like on your computer a little bit more than normal, like looking at exercise programming. When I told her what Rob said, she was like, oh shit. And then he suggested another one. He just wanted to see, and I was like, no, let's not even go near that. And he was like, that's okay. He goes, I think you can get away with playing video games for 1 hour a day. And I was like, I don't want
No, no, adult websites.
we joked about that one. We did joke about that one. He was like, no, because he goes, because obviously the cons are so many.
Yeah.
So after about 3 to 4 weeks of doing it, I had like a very simmering, like 1 to 0.5 anxiety that would like hum very, like I was on a coffee, but like I wasn't, it didn't feel coffee-ish. And I just knew. I messaged him and I was like, hey man, he was cool. Rob obviously was like, we've tried it, it didn't work. But I pulled myself out of it very quickly. I just didn't do any compulsions. I just was like, let me give this an honest shot. And then what happened is I'm at the gym and I'm like writing things down in my notebook. And then I told him too, it made me lose the fun of working out. Like what you said, Moment, like too much tracking. Like I want to just go there and
Yeah.
work out with the idea and go home. So that was probably the biggest one recently. But I would say for me, like the things that are hard for me to balance that can bring like the life frustrations are because I have all the Cairo stuff and because I have the OCD. If people are canceling on me, it fucks my whole day up. And I have to like message a bunch of people and be like this and that. And it's like these subtle annoyances that can build, especially that happens like first thing in the morning. And it just like derails my whole day. And I'm sending out messages and being like, hey, I'm sorry with this. That took me a while to be like, okay, it really doesn't affect me anymore. We've had difficult people, Moments known. Like Moment has seen me at my like recovered worst, way more Sam than you and Elliot have, just because of the like what he's seen of me. It's been a while since it's
And
happened,
in
but like,
general, like you and I have had like just like very like just generally personal conversations across like these
yes.
years as well, like at like different points as well. So yeah, and we've worked obviously so closely as well.
Totally. Like I had one October of 2022, Sam, because I have it in Elliot. I have it marked in my Excel spreadsheet for some reason. Like next to where I keep all my data, there's a column called like Latch meltdowns. And that is just the only one that's there. It's October 2022. And I remember it because I was being so aggressive about something. Sensory motor, no problems. Bi dysmorphia, no problems for the most part. Why am I struggling with this anger component? And he's like, look, I mean, you've been acting like this since you were like 14, probably.
Would you say
You know,
like, I mean, personality? Because I mean, I was saying to someone on a one-to-one today as well as like there are certain things that even outside the OCD like bubble, like there are certain things about our personality. I was like, after I recovered, there were parts of my personality as well. Of course, like it doesn't mean that like everything is then like, part of like the recovery package kind of thing, but there were parts of my personality that I just wanted to improve. And that like if there was like a formal date of like okay when I recovered, I think like since then it took me like 2 to 3 years to in fact like improve those other parts of my personality. So like would you say that like for you personality trait wise anger is that like trait that you think that you have to polish or are still maybe polishing?
you talking about me myself?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean the ones that let's say major disturbances took me about 3 years, so 2019 to 22. I would say only in the last 6 months, and I think Moment could attest to this because any of the disagreements has happened in the group that's like just me, Moment, Sam, and Phil, like the original group that we had, and like there's an anger component.
Not Sam, Rob.
Well, yeah, Rob, like the original thing that we had in the
Yeah,
very
yeah.
beginning before there was no one else. I would say it took me 2 years in the last 6 months to comfortably feel anger genetically inside of me and not say a word. So it took me about half a decade, 5 years, because Moment would be the number one to test. I would say Moment, even still like beginning of 2024, it might not have been frequent, but if we didn't agree on something,
Yeah, yeah.
here's the thing, the best way to say it, Sam and Elliot, you know what Rob said to me one time? He goes, this is so true. If I was to send the entire team on a podcast with a difficult person, like they were going to test you, talk crap about you, say bad things about the business or you, he goes, Sam, no shot. He's getting angry. Moment, this is like before you, Elliot. He's like,
Hmm.
Moment, no. He's like, Phil doesn't even know where he is. He like made a joke about Phil. He's like, but you, he goes, I'm not sure. And that really hit home for me. Because he's like, I feel like if you're on the panel and there's like three people being like, well, ERP is the gold standard, and like they're really cornering you. He's like, you are the person that might just be like, why don't you just shut the fuck up? And he's like, that's not going to happen from Moment. That's not going to happen from Sam or anyone else. So he
I
goes, you
have
got to.
zero. By the way, this happened last night. So, we were playing Catan. I don't know if you guys have played that board game called
I think I
Catan.
know what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we are making settlements in cities and roads and everything. Anyway, so these two people, who were like they've been friends, but like they also have some, and I don't know what it is, but I think they have some like just tension going on for like a couple of months, right? And yesterday during the game, they just like started going at each other like a little bit, like it became like quite tense. And of course, like they started fighting about the game, but obviously it just like escalated to becoming a bit more personal. And I was just sitting there, I was like, okay, what cards do I play next? Like, because I, because it's just not in my nature in general to kind of like fight or argue or just like, it's just so opposite to me. And even if someone is trying to fight with me, it's very rare for me to
Mhm.
get pulled into that. I don't remember the last time someone was trying to like, I don't know, like say something to me to like provoke me or something and that actually worked. It like yeah, it doesn't work. I'm just like, okay,
What
cool.
about if somebody mocks you personally and insults you personally?
I don't know. I think like I've just come to a point in life where it's like if that's what's making you feel good about yourself or making you feel power, okay, please have the power that you want. Like
Great
Yeah.
I
perspective.
literally like I like for me it's like And this is sometimes what I tell people on one-to-ones as well. I'm like, if someone is feeling like they're getting some kind of like power trip out of, personally insulting you or someone or whatever, and that's making you feel angry or frustrated or anxious that they're getting the upper hand, let them have the upper hand. Like, because
Yeah.
that's literally more, it's about them. It's not about you, it's more about them. So yeah, doesn't
I
really
had
affect me.
something happen on this Sunday, which my buddy was even like, both my friends who have known me for 5 years here, who have seen me have bad meltdowns. We were in the state park by my house hiking, and there was a big herd of bighorn sheep. They're like the sheep that have literally, you guys got to watch it. They'll headbutt each other, and it sounds like a gunshot went off. Like, I have no idea how they'll kill each other. And so I'm walking in this area you're not supposed to walk. There's literally a sign. My buddy is like, "Did you not see the sign?" There's a sign right next to my head that says, "Please don't walk here." So I go there, and out of the abyss, a state park ranger is like, "Get off of that. That's conservative area." And inside of me, I felt like a bomb go off because it's my, like, how my past has been. And I just looked at her, and it was incredible. You're gonna be proud of me moment. I said, "You could have just said it a little bit nicer and I would have get off." She completely diffused. She's like, "You're right. I'm sorry." We walk away. My buddy Matt was like, "Holy crap." Like, he was like shocked. He's like, "Oh, I thought you were going to be like, why don't you shut the F up?" And like, I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah, yeah.
"No,
Who
I
is
was
this?
like,"
Who is this different guy? He's thinking.
yeah,
Who
he
is
was
this
so
guy?
confused. He was so confused. My other buddy Drew, who saw me have a meltdown in 2022 on a mountain, like a bad one with anger at another hiking friend, he even was like, "Wow, that's was way better than the one 2 3 years ago." I was like, "Yeah, a lot better."
Sam,
So
so what
yeah.
about you? Like, what kind of like triggers or emotional earthquakes, whatever you want to call them, have you had since you feel like you've recovered?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one to think about because, and I never used to have this problem when I was stuck with OCD. Now, the pause that I can get and that I've had recently can be health related, right? And I'll tell you why this happens. And this is quite a sad, it's quite sad when I tell you this. Now, when I was stuck with guilt and shame, POCD, real event, false memory, I didn't care about my future. I didn't give a shit about my health, right? I didn't give a shit. It was self neglect, self punishment, because I hate myself. I had no compassion, no acceptance, no self love, nothing. And because with the POCD, just in that self berating all the time. So if I got ill, I couldn't give a shit, truly. If I was going to die next week, not that I wanted to die, but I was, stuck and suffering. I was like, okay, it could be worse than that, because I was just so consumed with my own fears. So now I'm recovered. Obviously, I value my life a lot more, and I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm plugged in, and I'm excited for the future. So when it can be like a symptom arises, I'll give you an example, and this probably happened. When was this? It was about December last year, I would say. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I was sweating. I was really hot, right? And which is unusual. That's never happened before. I was just really hot. And Amy woke up next to me and she was like, "Well, that's a bit unusual because why are you so hot?" I didn't really think much of it, but it was just because that's not happened before. It took me by surprise. So we was like, okay, we'll keep an eye on it, right? And then I like 3 days later, it happened again, like boiling hot, sweating in the night. And the pool, I could feel the pool to come in and check or Google something or get the doctor's appointment arranged that morning, right? Now, I held off. I thought, you know what? I'm going to hold off because anything health, anything like that, anything that feels super urgent, I'm
Yep.
thinking, right, give it a week. If it's still there, I'll address it then, right? Because as an OCD sufferer, we struggle to balance that urgency, don't we? We struggle to balance that knee jerk decision. So I thought, right, I'll give it a week. And it hasn't happened since. But in that moment, I did feel quite compelled to Google. I felt quite compelled to, oh, let's get something booked in. I need to see the doctors that morning, right? And that is because, obviously, I value my life a lot more. So I fear dying a bit more. It doesn't cause any suffering,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
was like, oh, what is if you die? What is if you've suffered for a long period of your time, of your life, and now you've recovered, and now you die of cancer straight away? So I could tell OCD was trying to get in on quick, do something. And then I had to be a bit wary of the guilt and shame coming in with the beating myself up with, you could have prevented this. If you just go to the doctors now, you could have prevented this, right? It wasn't chronic suffering. It didn't hit me for 6. I wasn't in complete panic mode, but I could tell it was trying to get in with the you're at fault, you're responsible, you're at fault, you're at fault. Okay. So I had to let that play out, and I gave it time, completely faded, right? But I could tell it was trying to
Yeah,
get a
yeah.
grip.
That's so interesting about, she
Yeah.
wouldn't mind me sharing it because she's done a video on the channel of this. But Marley, this happened to Marley with body dysmorphia. When
Yeah.
you're stuck and your only goal is to not die, you don't really care that much about what you look like because you just are like, so she lost some weight and she got in shape. And then she was like, what the heck? I'm getting more like body image fear. So I say, exactly what you said, Sam. You now have something to lose.
Yeah.
Usually
Yeah.
when people are completely flat broke, they don't have the fear of getting rich and then losing it. Like they're just like blah,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But when they come from the bottom, how many people amass like a $50 million net worth and you hear them in their videos? They're like, oh my gosh, you cannot lose it. Or like, they're like so obsessed with not going backwards. And
Yeah.
that is such an interesting thing about what happened. That's why my body dysmorphia got worse, Sam. It got worse after my sensory motor because I'm like, oh crap, I actually like care. When I was like really fat and big,
It's
I didn't care at all.
it's quite sad, isn't it? How much we devalue our lives when we're stuck.
Yeah,
I couldn't care about my future at all. I couldn't
yeah.
care. I
No.
was so consumed in the now and stuck in the past. I could not care if I died next week. And that was
Yeah.
really sad to say. When I say that, then that's quite sad, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And it's like health, it's your job as well. I remember when I was stuck with chronic OCD, my career completely just fell down the pan because all I could think about was recovery. And that's, it becomes secondary to everything else. Like you said there, Sam, nothing else matters apart from how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to feel better? And yeah, so true.
What about you, Elliot? What would you say? What would you say in the last year, 12 months?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So you guys know, so obviously my granddad, he's like close to like passing on, and it's quite crazy because seeing like the deterioration of a person. So like visually, he's got all the blotched skin. He's seeing like his dad, who's obviously long gone. He keeps asking to be taken home, and like I was in hospital with him on Tuesday, and like I could sort of feel the existential sort of grip try to come in. So that whole what's the meaning of life, that void that those existential feelings can create, questioning the mortality. So I had a bit of that going on. And with me as well, I had like a fear of death with me. So I'd like check my pulse and my heartbeat quite a lot. And like Sam said, like the pull, I could feel myself just trying to go towards that. And obviously I don't get caught into the cycle of it anymore, but like Sam said, you can really feel yourself going towards that. And yeah, you kind of just I kind of just question life a little bit, what's my meaning, what's my purpose? And then, which has been quite interesting. And yeah, I've, like you guys said, it's not doing anything urgent. It's not trying to figure things out. And and just sitting with that discomfort and uncertainty. And obviously, as you do that, it tends to diffuse quite quickly. And I feel like a lot better than I was a week ago when I saw my granddad. So yeah, that's been quite an interesting one for me. And also as well, the magic thinking element too, right? So Moment knows, he coached me. I had a big magic thinking element of me being at fault for my granddad going to hospital because I made up a lie about him going to hospital. So I've had that going on as well. Again, it's tried to buy it, the responsibility element. Oh, it's your fault he's in hospital, but that's not really latched on because the framework's in place. So it's been quite an interesting one, really, to be
Imagine
honest.
if you had not made up that lie, he would have lived on forever. Like
The whole
I know,
the oldest guy in all of the UK.
I know.
I mean, because that post that Rob made, I forgot about that moment. The one where he was like, the biggest relapse I had 10 years ago with the health scare. I mean, there are certain things that have flown through my mind that, like Sam, with like health, like for me, with my marriage, like I didn't care about anyone but myself. So, like, if Erica just went home on the flight, and there's been all those big plane crashes in America, you guys see another plane flipped over on its
yeah.
side.
I think the article that I just read today was that there've been 18 like plane crashes or problems that have happened,
Yeah.
which is
So I
crazy.
drop
It's
her off at the
crazy.
airport, and as
Yeah.
I'm driving home, my brain is like, she could die. And that like never ever would cross my mind. It
Yeah.
doesn't bring any discomfort. And it's this really actually where thoughts are thoughts. That was a great question moment someone asked me. When does thoughts or thoughts matter more? I said, usually when you're recovered, because your acceptance is
Yeah.
better, so they can come and go. But in the beginning, you need more depth. But it's interesting, like you said, how it latches onto things when you care more about your life, Sam, because that's what it
Yeah,
is.
and I got another example of that as well. Now, it's I can tell it's trying to get in on to like financial side of things, okay? And because getting married this year, spending more money than I usually would, and I don't come from a poor background, but I don't come from a wealthy background. So as you earn more money throughout life, I could tell sort of the control, right? Because every sort of penny, not every penny that I spend, but I can tell the trying to sort of be super safe and then like, oh, could you have saved some money there? Did you waste this? I could tell it was
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
get in on that.
Especially like
So
when your bank
I've got to be
account is
aware, I've
kind
got
of
to be
like
careful of that.
feeling like it's dripping like water, like because especially with
Yeah.
like the net sum is basically like your bank account would be in minus because of the wedding
Yeah.
expenses.
Well, money's funny, right? We all act like I've changed my mind so much over this. I remember, if you guys know who she is, Barbara, the older woman with short hair from Shark Tank. She's the one that's been on for all the years. She has been caught. So, this woman is great. She got so much flack for this. They were like, "So we heard you're not a saver." She's like, "No." She's like, "So what do you do?" She goes, "If I make $60 million on a deal, I spend all of it." She goes, because like money is weird like that. We act like we're going to be here for like, there's this future that we definitely, and I tell
Yeah.
people it's not that you shouldn't save or put money away, but it's like you really do think like, yeah, when I'm 65 and I retire, I'll have X amount of money. Dude, that's 30
Yeah.
years from where I am. I could easily die in those 30 years. There's no way to know. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. And I did the same thing, Sam. The more I made money in my business, the more my career grew. I would be like, all right, I got to put X amount of money into my savings account or in my investments.
Yeah.
And
I
I didn't
got
give a shit about that in college.
yeah. But
Yeah.
watch the rigidity there, just the black and white thinking there, just be a bit
I
more
think
lenient.
I think what helped me the most is I have a pretty good grasp on this now. I've had to think about this a lot. Is there's nothing inherently wrong with putting money away and being responsible. But if I want to go out and have a nice dinner with my wife, I'm going out for a nice dinner. Because
Yeah, definitely.
the
Yeah.
last thing I want is to say to myself, my dad, you guys hear stories, but my dad was the best example. High income earner, super high income earner, died at 60 from cancer. I mean, no retirement, never got to see me
I
get
think,
married,
and like
nothing.
with money, like for me, it would really latch on from. It's also for me, it was also like the fear of making just a wrong decision, and therefore also
Yeah.
the fear of living with regret. Like sometimes if I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
even like I don't know, buy imported chocolate, right? I can afford it. Like I don't have to like compromise on like a medical bill or something like that for doing that. Thankfully, I can afford it. But still, like because I'm also not used to that kind of stuff, and I'm generally not like a materialistic person anyway. Like I don't care about luxury in general, but like obviously there are certain like small cravings or whatever you can say that I would be like, ooh, I want this, right? And so it would just be the fear of, but what if I spend this and later I regret it? Or what if this chocolate
Yeah.
does not give
Yeah.
me the kind of like joy that I'm expecting that it will give me? And what if the money does is not proportionate to like the satisfaction, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like it was also just a fear of experiencing regret itself.
Exactly.
So
And
that's
and the
really
trouble
triggered.
is, I've got used to just making do as well. So then that can lead to being a bit tight or being super careful on what you spend. It's like, I was talking to Amy about this the other day and I needed some new jeans, right? And I was looking around, I was like, oh, £40 for some jeans. I don't want to pay that. And she's like, you can't just look for a bargain everywhere you go because otherwise it gets
Yeah.
too controlled. Right. So take the risk, spend that £40 and go from there.
Yeah.
Because I've got used to
You know
making
how
do.
mad I was about the trip that we're going on? Rob, it literally was in Rob's post today where he was like, what do you say? When people invite me to go to travel weddings out of my country, I'm going to Erica's best friend's wedding in Costa Rica for 8 days. My mom is really good at this too. I could say my mom got a lot of anger from my mom, but one thing my mom is incredible at, I'll give her this. She's always had an incredible mindset on like, Nicholas, you will not be here one day. Like, because
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I don't want to put for a business card. Like we had 2 business cards. She's like, just you have the money. You're not dumb. Just do it. You're gonna, and it's just like these little things like that
I had to get used to spending money on travel because obviously I was like growing up, we did not like travel internationally that much. And my dad, even though we had money, but my dad has always been like a very risk averse person because financially speaking, because his dad was also like a risk averse person, and that kind of translated into us kids as well. So for me as well, I financially like I've mostly been like risk averse. But then I think in the last 2, 3 years, I've been a bit more like, like, fuck it, like, I'm just going to do
I've
it.
noticed that moment. I've
Yeah.
noticed a change. I remember when this was more of a problem in like 22, 23,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like
I,
it's
I,
it's
I I
what
would I would be shaky about, making big expenses, right? So because again, I'm not used to them. So but like I think whenever I have obviously when you're especially when you're booking a trip, right? When you're booking it, you're not experiencing the trip. The only thing that you're seeing is the money that's been deducted from your bank account. When you
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
go to the trip and when you're then experiencing things, is like I have so far not experienced any regret, even if I
no,
spent
I
a
know
little
it's so
extra on like
true.
a hotel or something like that. In fact, I've been like, this is awesome, like so it kind of like is you really do have to kind of like wait for your brain to flip that trick on its own by going through the experience itself.
Okay, so obviously Elliot and Sam were affected the most in the bedroom. I didn't have it like with the guilt and shame or fears in that way. So for you, Elliot, since you've been even not even recovered, but a lot of progress in your experiences with this with women, has it
Mhm.
been something that has tried to like crop up here and there?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to like performance anxiety, right? So, you're putting pressure on yourself to do the right things. It's almost like you're not looking within yourself and you're trying to please the other person. And I felt that kind of creep in sometimes, whereas, with sex, like you need to enjoy it and do what you want to do. But yes, sometimes I still think like, during intimacy, are they enjoying this? And then sometimes it becomes a bit of a stressful experience when you start overlooking it and overthinking it. And I think, just from the days where I had HOCD as well, there was almost like a bit of like leftover like shame, I suppose, as well, just sort of the drags of that because I used to spend a lot of time, on adult content websites and that sort of thing, and it was always a very quick experience, right? Because maybe there'd be somebody else in the next bedroom, and you're thinking, "Oh God, I can't think, I don't want somebody else to see what I'm doing. I need to just quickly get that quick hit of verification that I'm straight." And that's it. It was never like an enjoyable experience. It was always like that. So I think for me, it's just been transitioning away from that. And you can imagine the sexual problems I had, right? PE, erectile dysfunction, all that sort of stuff.
All of it for sure.
And I've managed to sort of get myself away from that now, which is really, really great. But yeah, sometimes with that, those thoughts do come up in your head. Are you being a good lover? I think with a guy as well, that sometimes can get into the head. You hold like masculinity side of thing, trying to be good at sex, right? But yeah, as you develop unconditional self acceptance, it's not much of a thing anymore. But yeah, to be fair, Nick, sometimes I will feel it try and getting in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you were like in the bedroom in the middle of having sex and like men's images were flashing in your mind. Like, I just don't like, even when you're recovered, you know what I mean? Because I mean,
Yeah.
I know for me, I didn't have that angle of it, but like there's been times when you're with someone for 10 years, like Sam, you got to work
Mm.
at it. It's a work in progress to make it work. So, Sam, what about you in the bedroom with you since you've been where you are now? Are there anything that can pop up, anything?
That's one of the biggest things that's changed my sex life, and that's come hand in hand with recovery, because I dreaded sex, right? I dreaded sex because of the thoughts. And let's get personal here. I couldn't ever maintain an erection because of the thoughts. So I would just get embarrassed with performance anxiety, uh, and I never was in the mood for sex. I never really was at all because I knew I was going to get a barrage of thoughts and then the guilt after sex. And it was every time I'd have sex, I would just feel terrible because the intrusive thoughts, I was getting bombarded by them. But now, being recovered, they even if I got an intrusive thought, I couldn't even tell you because I can't
Yeah.
even tell that it's
Yeah.
there because there's no intrusiveness. It's
Yes,
just, and they
exactly.
don't come in. And because I'm not scared of them, they do not come in. I'm not looking out for them. I'm not on the watch out for them. Whereas previously, I was watching them like a fucking hawk. So obviously they were coming in and they were hitting me hard and they were completely sending me to a different fucking universe,
Yeah.
right? Whereas now they don't come in at all, and I enjoy sex. I look forward to sex. And I can't wait for sex. And another big thing that's changed, Nick, and you can relate to this massively, is that ever since I've given up porn,
I knew you were going to say that.
the sex drive has gone completely through the roof, or
Oh,
more than it was, because that completely nullified me. Because I was using porn compulsively, right? It was even though I was getting triggered on porn, it was my little escape, right? So I'd or escape if I felt triggered and so on. So cutting adult websites has then made me want to have sex with my partner a lot more, and then sex is 10 times better. So that's one of the biggest things that's changed, was changing those behaviors and the relationship with the thoughts. And I'm not scared of the thoughts. So that's
and
the
I don't
big
get
thing for
triggered.
me.
I don't get triggered. I don't know how you are with this, Sam or Elliot or Moment. I know for me or Sam, like especially someone that used it so compulsively and had so many sexual addictions. Like when I watch a movie now, I know it's a weird example because it's a Holocaust movie, but when I watch Schindler's List, like, and you see all them in the showers, about a year into my recovery from porn, I probably still would have been like a little hesitant to see someone in a movie like with their clothes off. My brain's like, did you watch it? I mean, I literally love telling the story. I was driving a year ago and I'm at a red light. I cannot make this up, guys. I'm at a red light and I look to my right and it's a guy in a truck. He was a little bit forward so I could see his dash. He had his phone like this. By the way, this is still my background. He had his phone like that, and I did a triple take because I didn't think I was seeing what I was seeing. So I look over and I'm like, huh? I look back and he's literally watching porn when he's driving. And so I watched
Oh,
it. I saw the whole thing. I saw the whole scene, the position, everything. And it's so easy to be like, you just watched porn. You just
Yeah.
watched
yeah.
it.
And then do you get the guilt and shame element come in? Like the
Well,
guilt
no,
of
they
you've
never
you've
had the
slipped
guilt
up.
shame. It was more the jitteriness of like, damn, should I
Yeah.
restore? It was more a hesitation,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
did I
And
just
I
ruin
was
my streak?
and I was watching Sopranos. I've just finished The Sopranos. Now, one of their main, as you know, they're one of their main sort of meeting points is a strip club, right? So you're going to see
Yeah.
all kinds of things. And then you can think, oh, is that me slipping up? Is that me? And then with
Yeah.
the bit of the fear, like, oh, what is if you go back into that addiction? So you can tell that it's going to try and rear its head
Yes.
with things like that. And like Nick made a good point. He says you can't avoid seeing naked women or anything naked or any kind of sex scene because you'll see that on the TV. You're
Yeah.
going
You
to
want to
see
know the
these things.
example I use, Sam? You'll like this. I don't know if any of you guys, I always say it in my one-to-ones. So there's a difference if you're recovered from alcoholism. There's a difference between you strolling into a bar. Moment's the bartender, and I say, Moment, I want a Red Bull vodka. I ordered it. It's what I wanted. He gives it to me. I take a sip. Versus me being at a wedding and Moment doesn't know me. And he goes, hey, man, you want a shot? And I go, he offered it to me. He gave me the idea of it. And I said, no, I'm good. To me, that helped me
Or
distinguish.
even I would say even maybe like you thought, oh, this is your glass and you have it and turns out it's like vodka or something.
Oh, there's
Even
great
something like
stories
that.
about that in the addiction world. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I saw a
So
woman, she was like 27 years on the wagon at a wedding. And she was like, I took my water and I just turned and I sipped it and it was straight vodka. She's like, oh my gosh, I've been sober for 27 years.
Wow.
So
yeah,
it's like that can be a big trigger for people. And
yeah.
I think for me, if there's
It
anything
happened to
else,
me the other day as well. Like I'm over like at a Christmas dinner kind of thing. I swear I had put my glass over there and I was like, oh yeah, I'm thirsty. And I go and it's just like vodka straight and I'm just like fucking hell. Like what's going on? Just completely like hit me. I think like for me,
I was going to say, Moen, what about you? There's got to be a couple things, maybe with like, is there anything with contamination for you that still can like eke you out or something?
interestingly enough, no. Contamination stuff is like I yeah, nothing has really contaminated me. I think the
Wild,
only
your life was so fucked up for so long. It's so hard for me to
contamination was
imagine.
honestly like, by the way, like the contamination OCD webinar, like when you'll be on it as well, like you'll hear it. It was just like anyway. But no, so contamination has never gotten re-triggered, which I'm slightly surprised by. I think the thing that has, interestingly enough, it has been health related stuff that where I felt a little bit like maybe like caught up or feeling the urge to do something. Again, like I think when my mother got diagnosed with cancer, that didn't trigger me in itself. I think it was the frequent visits to hospitals and then seeing other people ill. And I remember this. Basically, my mother had to, before getting her surgery, we had to just make sure that there was nothing wrong with her heart, kind of thing, because there was something being detected slightly on her test. So it was like, okay, we just need to make sure like her heart is in like good condition so that, we can do the surgery and perform it and whatnot. And so they do that test of like, I forgot what the test name is, where they insert that micro camera through the artery and that
Yeah,
goes to
yeah.
your heart, right?
Catheter.
And
Yeah.
then you look at it on like the screen as to like what's in there. So I remember being at the hospital with her that day and like literally her watching her in that, like, that entire process of that happening and like the image of her heart and whatnot. And I think about 2 days later, and I wasn't even after I left the hospital, I wasn't thinking about it, to be honest. Like I wasn't thinking like, oh my God, that was like horrible or whatever. 2 days later, my heart started to skip a beat. Like I started having heart sinking sensations like all day long. Um, and I was just like, why? And initially I was like, okay, this is, I mean, of course, like I'm going through like a concerning time with my mother, and overall we're all slightly on edge. By the way, compared to my family, I was pretty like very like, okay, she's going through cancer, we're going to take it step by step. Everyone else I felt like was a bit more like a bit more of a meltdown kind of situation. But anyway, like I was like, okay, fine. For 2 weeks I was like, obviously it's a nervous time, generally we're concerned, blah blah, it's okay. And then it still was there, and I was like, why is it still there, kind of. And I could see myself falling in that trap of like, I've left it there for a certain amount of time, why isn't it gone, kind of thing. um and I
I like
think,
how we measure that moment in our heads. We
yeah,
have like a time frame. We'll be like, it's been 2 weeks. Why is
yeah,
it still here?
exactly,
We do that.
exactly. And then I was just like, and again, I didn't Google it. I did not like ask any other doctor about it. I did nothing of the sort. But I realized, I was like, okay, I think this is just one of those things where I just have to wait for as long as I can. And I think, to be honest, that heart sinking sensation was there for another maybe 2, 3 months, by the way. It did not go away. It was just there. The only thing that made it go away was the fact that I literally just kind of like, even when my brain was automatically slightly keeping track of like, oh, it's still there, I just had to wait for my brain to like just on its own time just stop keeping track. So I don't remember exactly for how long I was experiencing, because I literally just stopped kind of like measuring it. But eventually it went away. But I know it went on for like 2, 3 months, and I had to leave it there without doing anything about it for 2, 3 months. So that was like one for me where I was slightly, again, it's hard to like, even shaken is like a strong word, but felt like I was just it's like if the door on OCD is closed, it's like the door was slightly open and there was a breeze coming through that door. It's
I
kind of
like that's a
like
good way
that
to
a
put
little
it.
bit.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah.
I
That's
had
really
another
interesting.
couple one of those. Like I think health related ones are where I got COVID really bad at the end of 2023.
Yeah,
Um,
Cole. Forgot about
I
that.
think you remember that as well.
Yeah, forgot about
Because
that.
I messaged in the group as well. I was like, guys, I have COVID, and like literally like my neurological like system is kind of like on fire right now, because I was experiencing these extreme like I literally was having lucid dreams, and lucid dreams means that it felt real and I was living through them, which was like my family somehow plotting against me. And I was waking up like just feeling like 2 hours of the night had gone by and I had slept, and actually, when I looked at the clock, it was just like 15 minutes. And it just felt like the longest nights I've had with
Yeah.
like COVID. And it had, because COVID does have that like neurological aspect to it. So it just felt, I just felt a little like fucked up in my head about it. It did, again, didn't trigger anything. I wasn't like Googling or doing compulsions, or I wasn't delaying sleep or whatnot. I was literally going to bed knowing that, okay, it's going to be another fucked up night. So like there was a lot of acceptance over there, but of course it was just like very uneasy to go through all of that. So I don't know if I can say if it was a trigger or if it was just a super uncomfortable thing. So yeah.
Interesting. Nick, I'm going to ask you a question, Nick, because I think this is very good for people to hear. So with sensory motor OCD, right? Because obviously you can't just escape the symptoms. You can't just escape the sensation. So have you ever felt the pull recently to, let's say, I don't know, you're running, you're running and you can feel the breathing, and you're breathing because obviously you're hiking, right? You got the breathing, that
Oxygen, living
manual
high
labor breathing.
altitude. Oh yeah.
Can you feel it latch maybe to the
Zero.
blinking or breathing or whatever?
Zero. It's like
Wow,
moment of contamination. Zero.
That's
Zero.
amazing.
I can literally do jumping jacks till I can't breathe, and I will literally be like I went for a run, Sam, 3 years ago. I got yelled at because you're not supposed to run there, but I wanted to see what it felt like. Of course, Rebel Nick. I ran down, but I ran from 14,000 feet to 11,500. I ran at that altitude. And people were driving up me. I could still see their faces. They were like this. And I was dead because I just hiked that mountain. And when I got back to the porta potty area, I felt like I was this close to, I was like could not catch my coughing is the elevation. And there's not a single millimeter that's like that. I think it's because it's my main theme and I worked on it so much, like with Moment and with you at POCD and HOCD for you, Elliot. Like I put so much effort because with sensory motor specifically, it's like Moment feeling probably contaminated, and you with Gil and you guys with Shane and Gil. Like the sensation was there for so long with no break whatsoever. I truly could say I had no quarrels with it. Like there was nothing it could do to make me go, I'm going to cancel a 1-to-1, or I'm going to not go to a movie with Erica. The amount of times I go to the movies and I would sit there and it would literally just be this for 2.5 hours. Like it's just shudders the whole time.
Yeah. I think
I just couldn't care anymore.
For me, like I think the old feeling or trigger that has tried to show up the most is demotivation. That is like the biggest thing for me. That like again,
that's like your anger from my anger to you.
Exactly. So like for you, it's like sensory motor, but like anger, it was like the big symptom. So that's the one that's showing up, not sensory motor stuff itself. For me, it's like contamination itself doesn't show up. Demotivation is where I can feel at times where it's like trying to claw me back into slowing down, procrastinating. And also like I speak about this on one-to-ones as well. Like I have that kind of moodiness is something that's I get that from both my parents' side. Like I get the fluctuating moods and unpredictability with moods on both my parents' side. And I can see that in myself as well. I'm a very moody person. Like sometimes I will feel like doing something, an hour later I'm like, nah, I don't feel like doing it. So sometimes I don't even know what I want, to be honest. Like so it's very like, so I can see how demotivation can, there's a chance. I've never, again, there have been times where I have slowed down like a little bit, like maybe 10-15% at the usual, like, proactive speed I'm going at, but it's never gotten severe and intense to that level again. So yeah, that's the only thing I feel like I have to, at times, slightly keep an eye on. If
it's interesting, it's interesting how we all like, and I do believe this. I say this in my one-to-ones. Everyone has something which really can't be explained. Like, why is it that Moment doesn't have that initial, like when the start state ranger was like, "Hey, get off this area." Why does my initial response go up to, "I'm going to tell you to shut the F up"? Like, even though my beliefs about accepting of other people are so good, there's like these things that we cannot explain that people want explanations for. Like people, I love telling people the Sam and Elliot moments for me say this. People say, "What's your tip?" I said, "Don't ask me about motivation." Don't. They're like, "Why not?" I said, it's like asking Michael Jordan in his prime how to be good at basketball. He's like, I just am. Like,
Yeah,
how do you have
yeah,
energy at 4:30 in the morning? I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't wake up and journal. Okay, today my energy levels, like I just get
and
up. Like
Nick, like
I don't know how to explain it.
so interesting. So demotivation is something that if people ask me for tips, I can give them tips because I actually worked on it. It's not like something that naturally came to me. For you, like motivation is
Yes.
not something natural. So for you, that's something natural. It's hard to give advice. For me, I think that's like when people ask me,
Great
how are
point.
you so calm as a person? Like, why don't you get angry? And I'm just like, because I don't like, I don't
It's
know what
like
to
Elliot
say.
getting questions about how to have sex with women. He had to work on
Basically.
No comment.
that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Oh my
guys,
God.
I think this was good, and
Great thing to end it on.
we'll end it on that. But I think again, I literally say this at the end of every real talk. We'll do this again soon, and then 6 months go by and we don't do anything. But we will try and do another one soon. Always good to have you guys here, and yeah, see you guys soon.
Yeah, that was
Cheers,
a lot of
guys.
fun.
Bye bye.
Bye
Later,
bye.
guys. See ya.
Yeah, yeah.
Peace.